What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Dennis here with Skilled Graphics, and I'm bringing you a little bit of a recap. SSL, TLS, the pusher strike back, and that's what we're talking about today. In an earlier blog, I wrote about my disapproval for the way Google will be flagging websites that are not SSL/TLS connections. In summary, any website that uses HTTP instead of HTTPS will be flagged and marked with a notice that states the website's connection is not secure. Well, that post got some attention on Twitter. Before I get into all the good stuff, let me make some things clear. I am not an expert in information security. I am not an expert in website security. I know a little more than the basics, but I am by no means an expert. I specialize in branding and design. I did make some statements in my previous blog that are not 100% accurate, and after this post, I will correct them. I'm going to go back through my blog and I'm going to correct anything that is absolutely false. It wasn't a whole lot, but there's a few things in my blog that were not perfectly stated. However, the purpose of my blog was not to educate. It wasn't to inform you of how the things work or anything like that. The purpose of my blog was to express my opinion. That opinion has not changed. I do believe the way Google is pushing this HTTPS issue is misleading. Now here's what went down. It started with WordPress Medic. Give him a follow, he's a pretty smart guy. He retweeted my Twitter post about all of this SSL HTTPS stuff and tagged Troy Hunt, an Australian web security expert with connections to Microsoft. He's well known in the information security industry with over 107,000 followers on Twitter. I have to mention Scott Helm as well. He was an integral part of my Flash education. There was a few others, I definitely can't name them all, but back to Mr. Medic. He posted another link to my Twitter suggesting I check out this specific link. It made many claims about HTTPS that I believed were untrue. Apparently I was wrong. We'll get to that. Mr. Medic and I go back and forth a few times, and then comes the explosion of notifications. I was hit from the left, I was hit from the right, notification after notification. What the hell is happening? I had my website chat open for customers and it starts going crazy with people visiting my site. Alarm here, alarm there, visitor here, visitor there. I start to panic initially and think, do I need to protect my site? Are these people about to teach me a lesson? Well, they did teach me a lesson, but thankfully they did not hack my site. However, I would not doubt their ability to do so whatsoever. These guys were all smart, and I'm pretty stubborn. Not a great combination. I was hit with fact after fact, opinion after opinion, so I picked and I prodded through the notifications, trying to address the ones with valid arguments. I wanted to refute them, but I had questions as well. What have I done? To be honest, I think I held my ground pretty well. But I did cave on a few issues as I went back and forth with several of them. Number one, I did install a TLS in the middle of all of this going on. Not just out of fear from Google, but out of fear that one of these hackers would attack me with something other than their amazing knowledge. I don't deny that they knew what they were talking about, but they couldn't grasp the reality of my complaint. They speak another language and claim that everyone can understand it. They think that just because they're subscribed to all these hottest security news outlets, that everyone else must be too. This is why they are mistaken and where they lose their grasp on reality. These guys did teach me a thing or two. I won't deny that at all. I actually appreciate their bombardment and fast dose of knowledge it brought to me. But for as much knowledge as these guys had, they could not understand a down-to-earth, average point of view. They couldn't understand that these flags on websites could potentially harm businesses. They denied it, in fact. They didn't understand that not everyone is savvy with the latest security measures, and worse, they didn't seem to care. All they cared about is that HTTPS would be forced on all. Yes, HTTPS is a good thing. But there are far better ways to initiate a secure web than to force it on businesses with guns pointed at their websites. Before I go on further about my opinion and what didn't change, here are a few things that did change. I now know and understand that TLS connection, HTTPS, can add a layer of protection for all websites, even those with just pictures and text. I now realize that SSL TLS connections can prevent man-in-the-middle injections. I do believe we should all switch to HTTPS as soon as possible. That's not really new, but I feel it a little more importantly than previously after talking with these guys. Now back to my opinion and what I still believe. What I believe is absolutely true is Google will be marking websites that do not have HTTPS URLs as not secure. And this is true. However, it has always been that way. It is nothing new. What many of you may not realize, and this is why I voiced my opinion in the first place, is that they are not speaking specifically about the website. The website could be perfectly fine. They are speaking about the connection the website is using. The website may or may not be safe. It's the connection they are flagging as insecure. What this means is any information passed on that connection, whether it is from data, images, text, it's all subject to attacks from someone attempting to intercept the data and change it for evil doing. But again, it has always been a possibility. HTTP has never, ever been secure in that sense. Ever. Now this is where I see the misleading. When average Bob comes to Joe's landscaping website and sees it has been flagged with an insecure connection notice, what is Bob going to think? Bob is going to think something is wrong with this website, and he's going to take his business somewhere else. Poor Joe, the landscaper, loses business because a browser told his potential customer that his website connection was insecure. Here's the thing. Bob could have went on Joe's website like any other website and been perfectly fine. Nothing could have happened. Sure, something might, but you might be hit by a bus tomorrow too. Even though Joe's website is clean and not infected, even though it is more likely that his connection will not be intercepted by evil hackers, Joe's website is avoided because a trusted browser pointed out that the connection that all websites have been using for decades is not secure, as it has been for always. This is my problem. Google is misleading with, yes, the truth. Yes, I know, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. It's semantics. They're telling the truth with language you may not understand or will interpret differently. You would have to understand some specific IT terminology in order to really understand what Google is saying. If you see a warning that a connection is insecure, what will you think that means? Will you trust that site? Well, here's what it means. First off, it has nothing whatsoever to do with an actual website at all. It only has to do with the connection the website uses and the route it goes through. An HTTP connection is not secure. It never has been, ever. But suddenly, you see a warning and you think something is wrong. Technically, something is wrong, but it has always been wrong. Here's the thing. Knowing that the site itself may be perfectly safe, and the only risk at all is that there is a very, very slight possibility that the website may be intercepted along the way, would you still be afraid to view it? It is the same connection the internet has used since day one. It has always been insecure. Nothing new has really changed. Is there any reason you should not visit that site? The answer is no, not really. Sure, it could get hijacked along the way, just like the Earth could be hit by a meteor tomorrow. The site is just as safe as it ever was. Yes, something could happen. Something could have happened 20 years ago. It's the same. Sadly, I know even if most people know this, they will still avoid that website because Google has flagged it. And we all know Google knows best. And that's the problem. The website is as fine today as it was 20 years ago, but now Google has flagged it. People will avoid it, knowing all of what I just told you. If the warning was gone, and there was no flag telling you the connection was not secure, you would probably visit the site with no worries. The only thing that would stop you is the flag from Google. Now I get it. We want a secure web, and that's what this is all about. Or is it? Because here's another problem with Google's flags. Google will mark a website connection with HTTPS as secured. It will literally have a green secure with a green padlock. Problem is, that site could very well be full of malicious content. It could be a phishing website set up to steal your information, and Google will give it a big green pass and call it secure. But again, we're not talking about the website, says all the security gurus. We're talking about the connection. Do you trust Google when it tells you something is secure? When you see the green padlock and the green secure text at the top, what do you think about that website? Secure and trustworthy, right? Well, wrong. They are only talking about the HTTPS connection. That site could do more harm than any HTTP connected website ever did. Misleading, confusing at best. Yes, HTTPS will make the web safer, and you should install it as soon as possible. But with over half of the websites still running on HTTP, many businesses are going to suffer from their approach. That's all I have to say about all of this. I have learned a lot over the last 24 hours, and I thank all of you for your input. It's still my opinion that this is a horrible way to execute such a great idea. Wise man once said, good ideas don't require force. HTTPS is a great idea. There is no need to force it. Have an amazing day.